You will see this video is a must watch. It's going deep into the themes of Pluto's transit through Aquarius and revealing the hidden power dynamics at play in the collective psyche. Reading some passages out of the book Astrology, Karma, and Transformation by Stephen Arroyo, I think that's how you say his name, and ending with an extremely important message that everyone should be aware of, tying into the current political climate in America with a peek into the future of the rise and fall of plutocrats, i.e. the oligarchy. But first, allow me to start off this discussion with a theme-appropriate rant. Then afterwards, we'll get into just how theme-appropriate it actually is. Why have we normalized the logic that says hiding our truth is a morally polite thing to do? Or that self-abandonment is required for social loyalty? Like, how does any of that make sense? You can't turn a negative into a positive, or at least not like that. It seems we missed the mark. Why is the logic not, if you are who you truly are, and you're acting according to that, then why care what someone thinks about you or what you do? Just do you. But why is it that we live in a world that perpetuates the belief that we should feel ashamed about who we are or what we desire? Tell me, when should we ever be ashamed of truth? Is reality really that scary? Well, maybe now it is, since we've all chosen to deny it for so long and let narcissism run the show. Do our egos really believe we have the almighty power of judging the ethics of truth or who has the capacity to handle it? Like, how condescending and righteous does it get than that? This psychological conditioning makes us believe that we should doubt our own judgment about what's right for us, to live in fear and hide behind a wall of shame. But the thing is, we don't want to think about feeling this way. So obviously, it's encouraging us to just forfeit thinking for ourselves altogether. Of course, this is subconscious behavior. That's exactly what psychological conditioning targets, our subconscious mind. So if you haven't realized how social conditioning influences you yet, sorry to be the one to tell you this, but we are living in one giant propaganda scheme. But like, seriously, what kind of social order is this? Talk about collectively choosing to turn a blind eye on the most obvious and basic manipulation tactic in the book. We're not talking about sophisticated Minecraft here. But if we call upon our logic and just take a moment to ask ourselves, why have we allowed authenticity to become such an insurmountable feat? Authenticity should be mindless, but now it's been held hostage under a heaping pile of subconscious patterning, denying the fact that we would rather be reckless with others than accept responsibility to become conscious of ourselves. Whether intentional or not, that's what you are in fact saying when you mindlessly go along with groupthink or choose to accept delusion as reality. The only thing that ever matters is our own experiences. Because at the end of the day, that's all we have control of. That's all that is actually appropriate to have control over, apart from small children, that is. But no healthy adult should ever be controlled by another human being or system of power. We should all be given the freedom to realize our individual potential and mistakes, and have the autonomy to change our experience if we're not pleased by it. It's not about trying to change others. Remember, your focus should be on you. So call back your power and change who you interact with. Live, learn, and let live. The single most important virtue to acquire is respect. Respect for yourself and others. If we all led with respect, just naturally, we would foster a peaceful world to live. If everyone realized this and lived accordingly, then no one would have to be victims of either perpetrators or of circumstance. We would all just find our crowd and let others be. And yeah, maybe along on our journey, we might occasionally run into some bad luck with someone who misguides us. But with so much light, the shadows lie in stark contrast, and thus far easier to see and avoid. Plus, the karmic feedback would be realized so much sooner without all that haze of deception. That is why we need to stop shame. Honestly, the world would be a far better place if we were all just shameless. Just think about this. Why are we distracting ourselves from fighting for systems of government to help us enforce oppressive laws, when the real solution is to just have the freedom to choose from unlimited options? If you don't like, then pick differently. Create something new. But you don't need a middleman to give you permission or hold you accountable. And you don't need ultimate social approval to make something okay to exist. There is plenty of opportunity for everyone to prosper if we just let them. But the mass population has been conditioned to believe it's in our interest to restrict people. In other words, restrict ourselves. Allowing propaganda to manipulate fear and shameful emotions as a way to dictate our beliefs and behavior. Through this structure of social order, we've created the need to have a government enforce limitations onto us. We're at a point in history where we're literally nominating our power away to a corrupt monopoly, ruled by the only type of people who desire to take your power from you are those that will happily use it to limit you. So, duh. Why do we act surprised that now the only people that really have any power are those whom are controlled by hedonism and greed? Just set your emotional opinions aside and use logic here. Is that the kind of order that's truly for the good of your self-interest? If you ask me, I'd say all I can see is ignorant disorder and strategic chaos surmount. If that's not what you're seeing, then answer me this. Who are the people that benefit without information and personal sovereignty? Why chance victimhood if we don't need to? But now, we're living in a world that uses woke as the vocabulary to describe ignorance and oppression. FYI, that's not what woke actually means. In fact, it is the exact opposite. Woke means you've awakened to the truth of who you are, and respecting the free will of others to be who they are. Definitely not forcing either or. You never have to tolerate or force respect. When you have self-respect, you just remove yourself from oppressive situations and people. So how have we allowed our intentions to be reflected back to us with the very opposite of that we seek? And then determine a valid response to such cognitive dissonance is to set aside any and all logic so that we can just deny reality altogether. Like, I just don't understand how so many people are willing to lie to themselves instead of just accepting accountability for making mistakes. Like, we're human. We're gonna make mistakes. No one is perfect. That's what we're here for, is to learn through experience, and we're bound to make mistakes. But then taking the responsibility with that knowledge to try something else that can actually help them realize a better version of themselves. And then by extension, the world at large. Like, are we really that lazy to full-on reject reality as the solution to our problems? Like, deny responsibility despite the sabotaging consequences of such to not only ourselves, but also to those we care about as well? I don't think we are. I think it's just proof for how traumatized and confused we all really are. Our brains have been fried by all the psychological warfare. We are in the midst of a mental health crisis on the brink of mass burnout and breakdown. We must care more about managing our unique energy and nervous systems. We need to let go of shame and control so that we can reclaim our individuality and take back our power once and for all. So, hi beautiful souls. Welcome to Stella Sage, your channel for holistic healing and personal development inspired by the cosmos. I'm Bree, your astrologer for the day, so kick back and listen up because this is powerful energy. Pluto in Aquarius is quite literally the concept knowledge is power, manifested in the sky. We are entering an era when the knowledge of consciousness becomes mainstream and gives humanity the keys to unlock the greatest power they own. This video is a deep dive into the sun's ingress into Aquarius, joining Pluto, the profoundly transformative planet of power. Now, and for the next 20 years, we'll experience this Cazimi aspect once a year in the tropical zodiac sign Aquarius, deeply impacting humanity as we currently know it. So whether you are new to astrology or advanced in its themes, this video is for you. I'll be discussing this transit from the basics, and then together we will assemble all the pieces of this cosmic puzzle so that we can become the masterminds of our own reality. There's a lot to unpack here, which is just power for the course when we're talking about Pluto, really. On November 19th, 2024, Pluto left Capricorn for good and will now be in the sign of Aquarius until 2044. Now, the last time Pluto entered this sign was in 1778. That kind of puts it in perspective for how big of a deal this transit is. And of course, what occurred around that time? The American Revolution. The American Revolution is conceivably one of the most important things that has ever happened geopolitically in human history. The rise of America has completely reshaped the world. Now we're at the end of that era and beginning anew. So what's to come is the question. Well, this is really a karmic reckoning of sorts. Pluto's journey through Capricorn has predominantly highlighted the concentration of power amongst a select few. A handful of billionaires and corporations, governmental bodies, and institutions. This past era has been marked by the influence of dark money, oppressive patriarchal structures, corruption, and the rise of reactionary forces. The system has been designed by those in power to benefit and stay in power, and has led to an alarming concentration of wealth. There has already been so much uncovered through Pluto's transit through Capricorn, but now it's making a conjunction with the sun at the first degree of Aquarius. In numerology, 1 is seen as the number of creation and raw energy. The number 1 is associated with new beginnings, independence, individuality, leadership, and ambition. Spiritually, it can represent unity with the divine, self-empowerment, and the ability to manifest your goals. It's clear we're at the threshold of the end of one era and the beginning of another. After all, this conjunction is occurring just one day after the US inauguration of Trump's presidency 2.0. with the richest man in the world and technology mogul Elon Musk as his unelected sidekick. There is a lot more to say about this power-hungry duo, but we'll circle back to it in a bit. First, I want to continue to point out the numerological synchronicities here. See, 2025 is a universal 9-year in numerology, which is deeply connected to endings, spiritual enlightenment, and universal love and wholeness. The number 9 symbolizes completion, wisdom gained through life's experiences, and the beginning of a new spiritual cycle, as 9 is the final single-digit number. In numerology, 9 is associated with humanity, service to others, altruism, and a higher perspective. Ironically, traits very similar to Aquarian energy. Now, how crazy is this? On January 29th, we will have our first new moon of the year, occurring at none other than the 9th degree of Aquarius. I'll cover the energies of that new moon in my next video, but I'm just mind blown by all these synchronicities. So to recap, this is the archetypal combination of both endings with beginnings. Now, what does the number 29 reduce to in numerology? 11. And Aquarius is the 11th sign of the zodiac. So again, now twice so, calling forth the number 1 in 11. 11 is known as a master number in numerology. It symbolizes spiritual insight, inspiration, and a strong connection to the divine. It often serves as a call to trust your inner guidance, embrace your higher purpose, and be a beacon of light for others. Aquarius is associated with themes like community, social change, humanitarianism, and individuality. Sound familiar? While the sign fosters natural leaders in thought and creativity, Aquarians often struggle with detachment, feeling like outsiders, or focusing too much on the collective while neglecting personal needs. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus and traditionally Saturn, representing innovation, individuality, and a visionary mindset. As an air sign, Aquarius thrives on ideas, intellect, and connecting with humanity on a broad scale. Its energy is often described as progressive, forward-thinking, and rebellious, with a strong emphasis on breaking norms to create something better. In astrology, Aquarius is tied to the 11th house, which governs friendships, social groups, and our hopes and dreams. Or in other words, our long-term goals. So now, what makes tomorrow extra special is that on January 21st, 2025, Pluto will hit an exact to the minute conjunction with the Sun, making this the first ever Pluto Cazimi in the sign Aquarius to occur in our lifetime. Like I said, the last time this happened was 248 years ago. So this is quite a special time to be alive, I must say. But now, what the heck is a Cazimi? In astrology, a Cazimi is a term used to describe a planet that is in an exact or very close conjunction with the Sun, typically within 17 minutes. The term comes from the Arabic word kazmimi, meaning in the heart of the sun. This aspect is thought to be especially powerful, almost like the sun's energy blesses or magnifies the planet's influence. When a planet is Cazimi, its qualities are seen as being purified, strengthened, or illuminated by the sun's light, and infused with the qualities of the sign it occurs. It's like the planet is seated on a throne at the center of attention, becoming more potent and able to express its energy in its purest form. A Pluto Cazimi is an incredibly intense astrological phenomenon. Since Pluto is the slowest moving outer planet, its exact conjunction with the sun is significant, and it can symbolize a moment of profound transformation, empowerment, and deep psychological insight. When Pluto is Cazimi, its themes of power, death and rebirth, shadow work, and ultimate transformation are illuminated and purified by the sun's energy. This can manifest as a potent time for uncovering truths, embracing personal power, and shedding old patterns that no longer serve you. In alchemy, the sun is often associated with the Philosopher's Stone, symbolizing the transformative and illuminating power within. Overall, Pluto's 20-year transit through Aquarius will be a profoundly transformative and revolutionary time, impacting both individuals and the collective. Later in this video, I will take you on a deep dive into Trump's rise in power in the context of Pluto's transit into Aquarius. As you'll see, it is quite an intriguing astrological paradox. In general, this transit represents a major shift towards dismantling outdated systems and structures in favor of innovation, technological advancement, and community-focused power. When Pluto aligns exactly with the sun, forming a Cazimi, its transformative energy is supercharged, creating a moment of heightened clarity and purpose. I'm thinking this video might end up being that moment of clarity for a lot of us. This transit can also shed light on issues like wealth inequality, government overreach, or technological ethics, demanding accountability and long-term solutions. A Pluto Cazimi in Aquarius is like a portal of opportunity for humanity to evolve. As the sign opposite of Leo, Aquarius thrives on the we rather than the me. Whereas Leo, the sign ruled by the sun, is the archetype most associated with the shadow trait of narcissism, which is quite accurate given the sun is like the king of the cosmos in which all the planets revolve around. Also, hence why our sun sign in astrology is representative of our ego identity. But Aquarius seeks individuality for a different reason, as a vital ingredient for collective growth, understanding that everyone's unique essence contributes to a better whole. Aquarius is all about authenticity. This sign reminds us that true individualism isn't selfish. It's about shining in our own truth so that we can inspire others to do the same. At its core, Aquarius encourages a sense of freedom to think, act, and live authentically without the fear of judgment or conformity. So overall, this transit will push us to balance individuality with our collective responsibility for transformation. This is the time to pay close attention to both global shifts and personal breakthroughs, because this Cazimi moment can mark a turning point collectively and individually. How so? Depends on where it occurs in your chart. To personalize this transit, find what house 1 degrees Aquarius falls in your natal chart, and look at what aspects it's making to other planets or points in your chart. Those of us with personal planets or points within the first 5 degrees of the fixed signs of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio, they will feel this the most. But this is Aquarius we're talking about, so the collective is being called to awaken. Let me know in the comments what house this is falling in your chart. And share any stories if anything is coming up that is super on point to the themes coming up in this video. This will be in my 4th house of my Placidus chart and my 5th house in my whole sign chart. And my chart ruler Venus is at 2 degrees Aquarius and it opposes my moon at 5 degrees Leo. So I am definitely feeling targeted for this one. So first, let's call our attention to 5 key themes for how a Pluto Cazimi can manifest in our lives personally. The first is empowerment. We could feel a surge of inner strength and the ability to reclaim control over our life. The second is shadow work. You could be feeling almost forced to face and integrate hidden or repressed parts of yourself. And if you do, make sure you journal about it so that you can express it and it's not stuck inside anymore. Get it out and just let it flow. The third is transformation of psychological conditioning. You could feel the destruction of old toxic programming being replaced with new, more authentic and empowering habits taking their place. The fourth is spiritual awakening. A Pluto Cazimi can connect you to deeper, more mystical truths about life and death. And the fifth is intensity. This energy can feel overwhelming, especially emotionally and psychologically. But ultimately, it is all about growth, progress, evolution, and reclaiming your personal power. On a personal level, Pluto Cazimi in Aquarius invites us to confront how we contribute to the collective systems. It's about radical self-awareness. It's a time to shed individual ego and embrace personal transformation for the greater good. This transit could inspire people to reclaim their voice and presence on social platforms as an opportunity to use these tools more intentionally, showing up authentically and spreading messages of empowerment and sharing personal stories of transformation. That's what I am all about. So if you haven't seen my last video, I am writing a book about my Pluto through Capricorn transit. As someone with 5 planets, plus my IC in Capricorn, as well as my Jupiter and Chiron sitting in opposition to all of this in Cancer, I've definitely learned more than a thing or two about the transformative impact of a Pluto transit. It's no joke. Let's just say they don't call Pluto Lord of the Underworld for no reason. Which brings me to my first quote I'd like to read you out of this book. Pluto operates at such a deep level and with such subtlety that research into the charts of famous people doesn't help us much to understand Pluto's significance. After all, we can't usually know what inner problems or profound experiences shaped these people's lives. Hence, the most important research with Pluto has to be done in relation to our own birth charts and those of close friends, whether considered in relation to individual experience or collective phenomenon. Pluto always symbolizes a form of extremely concentrated power. This power is so intensely concentrated that the physical shape or size of Plutonian phenomena, like the planet itself, is irrelevant. For example, the atomic bomb is usually considered to be a Plutonian source of power. The amount of energy released from one such bomb is overwhelming in comparison to the bomb's physical size. As mentioned above, the planet itself exhibits this characteristic, for although smaller than the Earth, its influence affects life on Earth in a proportion far greater than its size would indicate. Plutonian power, therefore, is derived from a source that is beyond or within the physical form through which the power emanates. The great energy of Pluto comes from a source that is not at all obvious and which we might call transcendental. This is the reason that Plutonian energy always manifests in terms of opposites. For that which is truly transcendent can only be understood by ordinary consciousness in terms of opposites: the light and the dark, the joy and the suffering, the spectacular show followed by the inevitable backlash. Pluto, therefore, symbolizes a kind of power which can be used creatively only when the user is sufficiently spiritually oriented. For spiritual evolution and in-depth healing are the only areas of experience wherein Pluto's forces can be utilized without a negative backlash. So yes, I can personally attest Pluto acts out in the extreme ends of the spectrum and does wreak havoc over your life. So if you would like to support me in my process of writing my book, I have started a GoFundMe page with the goal to raise the financial resources that I need to survive existential crisis. And I'm laughing, but like that is what Pluto does to you. So it's really no joking matter. Yes. So to help me as I take time to write this healing memoir, I know it's going to be a deeply uncomfortable writing process, as it will require me to once again journey back into the darkness and feel the pain all over again, and share my most intimate parts of me with the public. Eek! No small feat. But I know the healing will touch so many others who are feeling alone in their own darkness. So thank you so much for considering to support a good cause, and just know that your donation will also truly be of help for me on a personal level to help me get by financially for at least a little while. So truly, it means the world to me. Thank you. So I'll leave that link in the description of this video. So now, on a collective level, what can we expect from a Pluto Cazimi in Aquarius? Well, let's talk about it. This is about revolutionary change. Aquarius rules progress, humanitarian ideals, and collective consciousness. With Pluto Cazimi, we may see a spotlight on revolutionary breakthroughs, particularly in areas like technology, social systems, and global networks. It's a light bulb moment for humanity to embrace innovation and shed oppressive systems. We can also see more empowerment through communities. Since Aquarius focuses on groups, equality, and collective empowerment, this transit could inspire people to unite and reclaim power from elite or authoritarian forces. It's about redistributing power in a way that serves humanity as a whole. This can inspire breakthroughs in tech and evolution in AI. Aquarius rules technology and futuristic ideas, while Pluto governs transformation and control. A Cazimi could signal advancements in artificial intelligence, renewable energy, space exploration, or other cutting-edge technologies. Though it might also highlight ethical concerns and the need for more regulations in our approach to how we actually use these innovations, setting ethical standards in tech development. This transit may also bring awareness to the shadow side of Aquarius, which is detachment, alienation, and an over-reliance on technology. Pluto Cazimi forces us to confront the cost of progress and how we might be unintentionally harming the collective. Issues like mental health effects, misinformation, and the role in AI in content creation and moderation may be addressed during this transit, forcing reforms. With Aquarius's connection to social networks, social media could be transformed on a massive scale, focusing immense energy on social networks and how we interact digitally. We can already see this taking shape with all the drama around the banning of TikTok. See, Pluto's energy is all about uncovering secrets and bringing shadowy dealings to light. So, knowing what we know now, it's no surprise that this transit wants to expose hidden agendas of social platforms. And that's why we're seeing these revelations about data privacy, manipulation, censorship, and the misuse of AI in social media coming to the forefront at this time. And scandals may continue to emerge about how these platforms control and exploit collective consciousness. Makes you wonder why both Trump and Musk seemed to suddenly become so obsessed with owning social media platforms in recent years. Well, we'll see what happens with this whole TikTok thing, but kind of makes me question if this is them testing the waters on cutting us off from true free speech. They claim it's data protection, but come on. That ship has long sailed. So I think it's because the US doesn't have control of it. Therefore, they can't manipulate what information we see and don't see. Again, more on this duo later, but either way, this transit could mark the death and rebirth of existing social platforms or the rise of completely new platforms. So we might see older platforms radically restructure or lose dominance, making way for decentralized, user-driven networks that align more with Aquarius's humanitarian ideals. Then we'll see social networks becoming even more powerful tools for activism, uniting global communities to fight for justice and equality. Pluto in Aquarius seeks to dismantle centralized control, which could lead to an increase in blockchain-based or decentralized platforms that give users more autonomy and ownership over their data and content, which would challenge big tech monopolies and political corruption. And we can also see a redefining of digital communities, since Aquarius is about collective energy and shared goals. So this transit can transform how we form online communities and shift towards niche value-driven spaces where people connect based on shared ideals rather than algorithm-driven engagement. This could also spotlight psychological shadow work or guards to social media. Aquarius's detachment paired with Pluto's intensity could bring awareness to the darker side of social media, such as addiction to validation with likes, comments, and shares, echo chambers and polarization, dehumanization of communication, not only literally in terms of bots, but also how hiding behind a screen has empowered the shadow sides of trolls to come out. And this Cazimi could bring these issues into the spotlight, urging us to confront them. And can even be a call for a digital detox, as it may become more apparent of the need to bring about a better balance between our online versus offline life. Okay, so before we dive into the ironic twist of Trump's role in all of this, I'm sorry, but I need to spiral into another passionate rant. I'm a truth teller, okay? And I got Sagittarius ruling my third house of communication. So I apologize in advance if you think this sounds dogmatic or preachy. Sometimes it's just bound to happen. But this message is too important to not express. So, gotta do it. I just gotta do it. Don't kill the messenger. So, people are hurting themselves, but society has normalized not only the pain, but also the methods contributing to it. It seems people have noticed that they are suffering the effects of something, but their degree of consciousness as to what is creating the pain or the control that they have in doing something different is unclear. It's unclear if they don't realize the power that they have or if they are just too lazy to take responsibility for it. But for a moment, let's just assume it's laziness. It can be perceived that people would rather complain and project their concerns out into the world, casting blame, than take accountability for themselves and make a difference. People are so tired of feeling this way that they would rather just give away their power completely so that they're not burdened by the responsibility of knowing that they actually have control over their lives. I believe the solution to this mentality is self-discovery, but that is such a self-motivated process and one that cannot be delegated to anyone else to do it for them. It also challenges every belief that one has been conditioned to abide by. So it takes an incredible amount of strength, self-trust, and resiliency to do so. The process of acknowledging the truth can feel more daunting and painful than it does to live a life of uncontrollable suffering. It's scary because it means that you have to take ownership of your suffering instead of casting blame like a victim. However, the results of doing so, despite feeling the undesirable process, makes everything immensely better because of it. So listen to what Stephen Arroyo says about it, because he does quite brilliant job explaining the process. Self-knowledge and self-realization is a necessary prelude to God realization. But in the early stages, a student of spiritual truths or a student of higher forms of astrology often become discouraged when his or her new insights into the self reveal so many negative traits, emotions, and habit patterns. It is at this point in the individual's development that great care must be exercised, both by that person and by any person, astrologer or otherwise, who attempts to counsel or guide that student. It should be explained that just as opening a door, a small crack, and allowing a beam of light into a dark room reveals all kinds of dust in the air and perhaps other dirt that was not previously apparent in the room. So when the first steps towards self-knowledge are taken, whether utilizing the beam of light known as astrology or another illuminating method, the student very often quickly develops a negative attitude towards his or herself, destiny, birth chart, etc. It should be further explained that as the intensity of light increases, the student will become even more immediately aware of his or her faults, weaknesses, or negative qualities, but that such awareness is to be welcomed as an indication of greater self-knowledge and definite developmental progress. The student should be encouraged to use such insight as a prod towards taking definite constructive action in the positive transformation of the individual life, rather than as reason or excuse for fear or anxiety. Further, it can be pointed out to the student that as the level of self-knowledge increases, the person's karma often begins to manifest on a subtler level, since he or she is now open to learning what must be learned about the self, and hence there is no longer the need for shocks or dramatic events to awaken the individual from the slumber of spiritual lethargy. As Jung points out, the psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. That is to say, when the individual does not become conscious of his inner contradictions, the world must perforce act out the conflict and be torn into opposite halves. Hence, it seems safe to say that a commitment to self-development and self-knowledge not only holds out the promise of aiding the individual to be a more whole, happy, and illuminated soul in the future, but also that such a step often begins to alleviate a great deal of suffering in the present, once the initial confusion and discouragement is overcome. So how do you convince people to take on the tremendous endeavor of self-discovery when they are too overwhelmed, afraid, or lazy to, while living in a society that encourages the perpetual cycle of suffering? People often choose to stay in a state of pain or even contribute to their suffering because the effort to change feels insurmountable. And society does indeed normalize this, conditioning people to externalize blame rather than look within for solutions. It's called learned helplessness. Breaking the cycle and encouraging true self-discovery can feel like pushing against the entire current of mainstream attitudes. But the truth is, happiness and self-mastery are not luxuries, but our natural state. Reclaiming your power can lead to a life with less suffering, more agency, and genuine fulfillment, despite the discomfort it might entail to rebalance the system in the process. But there absolutely is a need in the world for more people to discover the truth about who they are as individuals, because that is how you realize that ultimately we are actually, in fact, all the same. The benefit of everyone acting from this place of understanding would be that we automatically begin living in a more empathetic and compassionate way, having respect and acceptance for ourselves and others. The problem is, we are taught to focus on what's outside of ourselves and compare ourselves with others as a means to motivate and guide our process of self-development. It's a problem because it causes our growth to be focused on superficial aspects of life instead of deeper and more meaningful pursuits that would have more impact for not only our own life, but the world at large, extending even beyond our physical reality and into the spiritual realms. The way society has conditioned us has generated a belief system that supports the assumption that in order to develop as a person, we have to compete in a zero-sum game. This falsely suggests that there is both scarcity and ultimate attainment, instead of understanding the fluidity of life and that we're always in a process of something much grander, so grand that we'll never be able to see the big picture. We'll never be able to know the whole truth. At least to me, it seems clear as day. People are feeling the effects of being caught up in the competition of life, comparing our journeys with others and distracting ourselves from taking responsible action. The pace of life has become so fast that we don't have the time to feel the impact of our actions, to feel the havoc of it all, and for some, to even notice that there's a problem. Each one of us is experiencing our own stories of both destruction and creation on an individual level. But it's sometimes difficult to believe that your unique experiences are contributing to the collective's experience. It's humanity's story. And as a whole, we're all individually creating it together. The reality of human nature is subjective. We are emotional beings, all with unique personalities and life experiences. And personally, I feel that's what makes life interesting and beautiful. Before this next part, I dare you to listen with an open mind and join the conversation with a compassionate heart. So I was talking with a friend about the topic of personal power in terms of free will versus predetermined fate. It's a concept that I'm not sure I will ever be able to fully wrap my head around, but through my personal journey of self-discovery, I have come to realize how much this topic plays into my individual karmic lesson for this lifetime, as to humanity's at large. I think it's safe to say that whatever your background, we can all agree the current state of the world has had this ominous undertone, like we've been riding on the brink of absolute and utter chaos. I'm feeling disheartened, and if I'm being honest, I'm quite wary as I reflect on the current political climate in America. When I notice how many people express trust in leaders like Donald Trump, I feel a deep sadness and worry for our collective well-being. The fact that Trump is now the president of the United States is quite truly terrifying to me. I trust the universe has a plan and a reason, but it's still difficult to not get scared when you realize how much power he has and his plans to demonstrate just how much more control he can take over. Part of me has held on to a hope that maybe things weren't as divided or fear-driven as I sensed they were, but another part of me has been completely disillusioned by the ignorance of Americans as a whole. So there are really countless reasons for why Donald Trump frightens me, but psychologically, because he is able to spin me in circles trying to figure out his deeper truth. He flaunts his narcissism instead of trying to hide it, which I actually respect, but I haven't heard him own it either. So maybe through that fact alone, He believes he has owned it through his behavior. He speaks his truth loud and clear. So in a way, he is telling us who he is. And that's a person who cannot be trusted to lead with moral integrity. Clearly, from the countless crimes he so openly commits. He knows what he's doing. In his mind, why should he feel guilty if he's not trying to mislead anyone? It's their own fault for going along with it and just accepting it, right? I bet you that is what he is thinking. So in this case, by broadcasting his shadow so shamelessly, it confuses people. Remember, people have been conditioned to hide their truth by means of shame being the very manipulation tactic used to do so. He flips that psychological conditioning completely upside down, inside out, in all such ways. I can assure you that he knows this, and this is done so purposely. So he is still being manipulative, but in a more sophisticated, devilish way. But what I don't understand is why are so many people okay with not only condoning his behavior, but like actually giving him the only power that they have to be capable of holding him accountable. But what I have come to realize, it's not logical. It's purely raw, untamed shadow emotion. So what are these shadows? Is this their hope of they themselves being held less accountable? Do they want to be judged against a lower standard of excellence because they're too lazy to do better, to be better? Do they feel so ashamed for not being more responsible for their lives that they would rather not even have the choice in the matter to feel ashamed about? Or are people just too energetically depleted to care? I'm sorry, but I can no longer pretend like I haven't thought long and hard about all of it. I'm just trying to wrap my head around why. Just trying to understand why. But no matter which way the truth falls, I still have compassion for what they're feeling. Despite them sabotaging not only themselves, but everyone else in the process, I can feel what they're going through. I would still feel it even if it wasn't ever my own experience. That's empathy. There's something in me that feels deeply connected to the collective emotions of humanity. Almost as though I can sense a shared pain, fear, and shame that transcends my own experiences. It's challenging and at times really overwhelming, but I think it also comes from my deep need for understanding, connection, and growth. I hope in some way you can feel at least seen for your good side or your dark side. They're both deserving of your attention and self-compassion. We're all hurting in one way or another. So let's just accept where we are as truth so that we can actually allow ourselves to heal, moving forward with a clean slate and choosing to be better. It's a process, but you deserve it. You always have, and you always will. But as I try to understand the support for Trump, I also find myself searching for the higher purpose behind it all. I see this situation as an awakening in consciousness, one that could lead people to recognize their own power and responsibility. My hope is that through sharing this perspective, more people will become empowered to make choices aligned with truth and collective well-being. So I've been thinking, this friend I mentioned and I have this sort of inside joke about being an undercover lightworker, and that term holds even more weight now given the projected future of humanity. I've always held a strong belief that everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that even the most cruel and devastating circumstances are rooted with a higher purpose at play for the ultimate benefit, no matter how perplexing and irrational it may seem. But I have been really trying to wrap my head around how so many people feel they can trust Donald Trump, despite the evidence there is that proves otherwise. So I spent some time on ChatGPT, not only trying to understand the psychology of a Trump supporter, but also trying to understand how this plays into a higher spiritual purpose for us all. And let's just say it took me down a deep, dark rabbit hole. Of course, this all comes down to consciousness, which I think so many people will awaken to the truth, but for them to do so, they'll have to see the consequences of entrusting Trump with this level of power for that to happen. Pluto works in extremes, remember? And unfortunately, by the time that happens, it'll become even more difficult to empower the masses to realize their sovereignty. So yeah, I'm scared lightworkers will actually be forced undercover. Why do I say that? Well, let's just take a peek into the worst case scenario with the help of ChatGPT spelling it out for us. Now, I'm not gonna lie, trigger warning, this is some scary shit, but knowledge is power after all, right? So buckle up and try to stay calm. I'll have enough faith for all of us because despite feeling the natural human emotion of fear, I still believe no matter what may come our way, we're going to make it through this. I just know it. But together, let's just at least prepare ourselves so we know what to watch out for, okay? So I asked ChatGPT, can societies reverse the path of dictatorship? While the descent into dictatorship is complex, it is not necessarily irreversible. Societies can resist this transformation through the resilience of democratic institutions, the courage of citizens to protest, and the support of independent media and international allies. Educating the public, advocating for transparent government, and mobilizing to protect democratic rights can help halt or reverse authoritarian tendencies. In the end, democracy and freedom often depend on the vigilance of both individuals and institutions to uphold the values of justice, accountability, and human rights. The transformation of a society into dictatorship often happens gradually, involving a series of subtle and overt changes that shift power from democratic institutions and individual freedoms to the central control of one leader or ruling group. The shift is usually marked by certain strategies that can weaken checks and balances, undermine the rule of law, and erode the freedoms and rights of citizens. Here is an outline of how this transformation often unfolds. A lot of that has already begun, which is quite scary. This is why we need to get this information out there now so that people are aware of the tactics that are used, and we don't allow it to be normalized from the very beginning. Like, we just resist right away to where it doesn't become so much of an overpowering force. Like, I don't know if, like, my personality is like, I hate being controlled and manipulated, or even just told what to do. Like, having a boss, I don't work well with any sort of authority telling me what I can and can't do. And so this sounds like living hell for me. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I've got some past life trauma around being killed for, like, definitely have the witch wound over here. So, yeah. But anyway, that doesn't sound at all like Pluto in Aquarius, right? Well, now let's talk about what the cosmos suggests is going on here. Trump's rise in power in the context of Pluto's transit into Aquarius seems to be an intriguing astrological paradox. Pluto, a planet associated with profound transformation, rebirth, and sometimes upheaval, moving into Aquarius suggests a long-term shift towards themes like collective empowerment, rebellion against tyranny, and a focus on the people over authoritarian figures. Ruled by Uranus, Aquarius is often linked to liberation, innovation, and societal progress that prioritizes human rights, equality, and decentralized power. Since Trump embodies certain authoritarian traits, his election in this context may appear counterintuitive. However, Pluto transits always bring shadow issues to the surface so that they can be confronted and transformed. I want to call out one last quote from the book, which discusses the significance of Pluto's proximity to the sun. Dane Rudar specifically points out that this passage of Pluto closer to the sun than Neptune has a stimulating or seeding effect at the deeper levels of collective consciousness. He writes, Pluto can be related to the descent to hell by Christ before his resurrection. As Pluto therefore cuts into Neptune's orbit, a process of release from the past and the impregnation by a nucleated vision of the future can symbolically be said to occur. Indeed, such a period in every revolution of Pluto around the sun is, historically speaking, unusually significant. These periods often witness a repolarization of the collective unconscious and the ideals of mankind, along lines which, in one way or another, stress factors deeply rooted in human nature and thus common to a large section of mankind. Mark Edmund Jones has written that this historical phase of Pluto's cycle marks the overall and complete revolution of just about everything on the globe. Zipporah Dobbins further clarifies what she sees as the meaning of this period. This period re-emphasizes the Scorpio qualities of the last quarter of this century. Pluto will be in its own sign from the mid-1980s to the mid-1990s. Humanity is being notified that it is time that we learned to share the resources of the planet. The key meaning of the letter 8 of our astrological alphabet, whether Pluto, Scorpio, or the 8th house of a chart, is the need to learn self-knowledge through the mirror of close peers and to learn self-mastery out of respect for the rights of others. I am one of those millennials born with Pluto in Scorpio. I can't describe how intense I feel called to be a leader of some kind in this process of collective transformation. I don't really know how I'm supposed to do that, and I definitely don't have all of the answers, but this video is me answering that call in the best way that I know how. I'm sure there are others of you also feeling this visceral urge to follow this calling. This is even more true for those of us that were born between May 23rd, 1989 through November 18th, 1990, because we also have our North Node in Aquarius, which in astrology is a karmic point of destiny and seen as a guide towards an individual's life path and purpose. And from July of 2026 to March of 2028, we'll be experiencing our nodal return, seeming to align when this Plutonian era will be coming into full effect, loud and clear. My chart ruler Venus is not only a degree off from this Cazimi, conjunct at 2 degrees Aquarius, it's also still very close to my IC angle, which is at the critical 29th degree of Capricorn, also known as the anaretic degree of fate. And we're going to have an eclipse occurring exactly on my North Node at 17 degrees Aquarius during that nodal return I just mentioned. So yeah, I have no doubt I was definitely born for this transit. And yeah, part of me is shitting my pants. And another part of me is like a racehorse, eagerly waiting the gates to fly open so that I can actually do my thing, whatever that may be. Well, let it start here with this video, and let's now contemplate on how Trump's rise might align with the deeper themes of this transit. While Aquarius is about the collective, Pluto represents a deeper, more challenging transformation. So Trump's influence could represent the last push of a more authoritarian way of governance, which the Plutonian energy may forcefully challenge in the years to come. Pluto's energy can expose the underlying issues within power structures that have been festering under the surface. And Trump's presidency can be seen as a manifestation of hidden authoritarian impulses within the system, coming to the surface for society to examine and ideally dismantle. This exposure serves as a wake-up call for collective resistance. In essence, if Trump or any figure attempts to consolidate power against the grain of Pluto's Aquarian energy, it could trigger resistance and even revolution. This transit may bring societal shifts that emphasize cooperation, transparency, and humanitarian ideals over any centralized form of power. Through a spiritual evolutionary perspective, Trump's presidency could center on themes of growth through challenge, polarization, and self-reflection. Leaders with controversial or divisive qualities like Trump can often catalyze intense reflection within a society, triggering both personal and collective soul-searching. Leaders like Trump act as mirrors, reflecting the collective shadow, unresolved issues and biases that we as individuals or societies may prefer to ignore. His leadership could serve as a spiritual wake-up call, inviting society to confront and work through these darker elements of fear, division, or ego-driven motivation that are present within us all. Challenges can lead people to ask deeper questions about their beliefs, values, and actions. A leader who polarizes people might encourage a more profound quest for truth, justice, and compassion, pushing people to seek unity and work harder towards solutions. When people feel divided, there is a potential lesson in finding common ground amid diversity. Trump's presence might indirectly teach people the importance of respecting differences while uniting under shared goals, such as protecting democratic values or fostering social and environmental well-being. Spiritually, such a period might push us to evaluate our values, questioning what really matters on a soul level. Are we valuing kindness, equality, and truth? This introspection can often lead to redefining what people expect from their leaders and from each other, aligning more with higher principles and compassion. A Trump presidency can also spiritually emphasize lessons about the balance of power, responsibility, and ethical leadership. People may reflect on what power means and how it should be wielded, encouraging collective accountability and urging citizens to actively participate in governance and hold leaders accountable. Another spiritual purpose might involve people taking greater personal responsibility for their lives and the world around them, learning to act from their own moral and ethical center. This empowerment helps individuals feel that they can make a difference beyond politics. And for some, his leadership style may serve as a study in the spiritual lessons surrounding the ego, pride, and narcissism versus collective good. This can prompt reflection on where we see those traits within ourselves and how to integrate healthier expressions of individuality, humility, and empathy. Ultimately, in a spiritual framework, any leadership era, even one filled with conflict or adversity, can be seen as an invitation to learn, grow, and evolve towards greater awareness, compassion, and unity. So some collective advice for navigating this transit under authoritarian pressures. Build awareness. Knowledge is power. In a time of restriction, especially. Understand the ways that technology, law, and governance can impact freedoms, and stay informed on how to protect personal and communal rights. Prioritize unity. Aquarian energy favors collective action. Focus on collaboration and allyship, uniting across social divides to uphold shared values. Technology is aligned with Aquarian values such as open source, decentralized systems, can provide practical tools to bypass control and support self-governance. To resist oppressive energies, cultivate resilience, mindfulness, and inner peace. These qualities can help maintain clarity and integrity amidst social pressure. And for those of you who feel called to be an undercover lightworker, here are the top 10 things to focus on. 1. Develop deep self-awareness and grounding. 2. Establish yourself as a source of trust and empathy. 3. Create a platform for inclusive dialogue. 4. Educate gently and gradually on psychological mechanisms. 5. Promote critical thinking and emotional intelligence as essential life skills. 6. Facilitate non-violent communication and active listening techniques. 7. Encourage healthy skepticism and media literacy. 8. Foster resilience and positive community action. 9. Advocate for ongoing reflection and personal growth. And 10. Model ethical leadership and integrity. Remember, Each phase of this transit offers an opportunity for growth, awareness, and evolution, inviting individuals to rise to the occasion and support a larger shared vision of freedom and empowerment for all. To contribute, individuals can focus on small daily actions that reflect these larger ideals, whether by advocating for inclusivity, protecting the environment, supporting ethical technology, or uplifting others. By aligning with these principles, individuals can help usher in a more awakened, just, and liberated society, co-creating a world where power is shared and humanity's collective potential is realized. So, thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, please share it with others. The algorithm doesn't seem to like me very much, so I could use all the authentic help I can get. And be sure to like this video and keep the conversation flowing in the comments below. And please, try not to let this message scare you. Just know that knowledge is power, and together, we've got this. So until next time, be sure to take care of yourself and shine bright, my star siblings. Sending you all so much love and light.